I'm standing here with Roland Kupers from Oxford University. We're talking about complexity here today, and you have tried to do something really complex. Get 10 very big companies in different fields to work together. What is the nature of that project?
Well, actually, they decided to get together, which is a really important difference. So the idea arose in Davos when the CEOs of 10 companies, ranging across a whole bunch of industries, from energy to insurance to food and chemicals, etc., had a conversation where they discussed the fact that people always talk about the return to business as usual and to a level playing field, etc. But they said, no, actually it's likely that this will not happen. And the reason is that if you look at the systems we have, and they took, for example, the food, the water, and the energy systems, they are so tightly coupled and so stretched to their limits. And you add to that the context of climate change, the idea is that we will see more and more turbulence around us. And so they pose themselves the question is, how do we, as arguably relevant, very large companies in the world, how can we contribute and how can we provide useful product, services, solutions in this context of turbulence, as opposed to romanticize about business as usual and a smooth environment? Because if the context...
And the next simple step. Now, okay, but I mean, that's in Davos. There's 10 guys saying yes. And then it basically goes into the organization, a little bit of noise, and nothing ever happens.
Well, except that these are serious companies, and actually something does happen. So
what happened?
So we had a project for the past 2 years, and I'm the external advisor to that. So I actually don't speak on behalf of the companies, but I've been closely involved with the project. So we developed a number of things. So 2 big buckets of activities. One is a set of pilots where these companies said, let's go try some things. Let's go to an industrial area. Let's go to a city. Let's go to a province somewhere and engage with the decision makers and figure out what would a resilient solutions to as opposed to a merely efficient solution to the problems there.
What's the difference between an efficient solution and a resilient solution?
How long's the interview?
4.5 minutes.
All right. So resilience is as you've heard from other speakers, is a property of complex systems. And what happens when you make something really, really efficient, it can become brittle because you've squeezed out all the redundancy and the learning power from the system. So there's a tension between something that's resilient and that's efficient. And most companies live in the church of efficiency, and their clients expect them to provide things that will make things more efficient. But they have little eye for the brittleness that comes with it. And if you think the world's becoming more turbulent, that brittleness becomes more and more threatening.
Thank you. That is clear. Now, 2 years later, you have done a number of projects. You're talking together. What is now the result of 10 very complex systems working together for 2 years on this kind of complex question?
So this is a long-term project, in fact. These are huge structures, these companies, and they've developed a number of knowledge frames, analysis tools and things, and a language that they now share and that they adopt. On the other hand, something real has changed in the world as well. For example, the Rockefeller Foundation has put $100 million towards funding chief resilience officers in 100 cities around the world. So now all of a sudden you see a client side appearing as well. Because one of the problems of these companies is that, well, we can offer resilient solutions, but does actually anybody want them? So also on the public policy, on the client side, you need people who say, well, actually this resilient thing matters to us, and we'd like to talk to some companies who understand what we mean and jointly figure this out.
So it was useful that they already got into that. What is the name of the project? Is there a website on it?
There is not. It's called the Resilience Action Initiative, and it was never secret. I mean, it's been announced publicly in Davos, etc. But it was specifically low-key because the companies did not want to pretend that somehow they'd crack this or in any way mistake it for some kind of PR initiative. It was truly about learning and figuring out strategically how they could be more relevant in the future.
When will we see it coming up in projects?
I think when you talk to these companies, you'll hear echoes of that. And we're looking actually at publishing some of the material that was developed, but also in a relatively low-key way. We're discussing a follow-up project which would be more open to other stakeholders.